Hare Krishna.
Yeah, he's not there, Mataji.
This session is no longer being recorded.
I think he's joined, Mataji.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
The recording has started.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for joining and giving your valuable association. You can take over the call, Prabhuji.
Yeah, fine. Yeah, so I think we are reading second canto and third chapter and 24th verse. Can you all just hold on a minute? Yeah, I think okay, so is my voice clear to all of you? Am I audible?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, fine. So yeah, I think we're talking now second canto, third chapter, and 24th verse. That's what we're talking about. And let's see what can be done here. So the verse goes like that. The verse goes, Tadashmasaram Hirdayam Badedam Yudgrayamanair Harinamadehya Navikriyet Atha Yada Vikaro Netre Jalam Gatra Roheshu Harsha. Srila Prabhupada writes there, certainly that heart is steel framed, which in spite of one's chanting the holy names of Lord, with concentration does not change. An ecstasy takes place, tears fill the eyes, and the hairs stand on end. Purport is actually too long. So just to save time, I'll just quote from the purport as I continue to give lecture and explain what's happening. And I'll just begin with the lecture now. Before that, let's offer invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namaya Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyavadi Paischa Deshtarini. So, okay, this is a verse. Tatashmasaram Hridayam Vadedam Yadgrayamane Harinamadhe Navikriyet Atha Yada Vikaro Netre Jalam Gatra Roheshu Harsha. Certainly that heart is steel frame, which in spite of chanting the holy names of Lord with concentration does not change. When ecstasy takes place, tears fill the eyes and hairs stand on end. Very, very, very important verse, and a very mature verse. And also, this verse is also an evidence that Srimad Bhagavatam is a ripened fruit of all Vedic literatures. And I'll tell you how is it. This verse is also very important to understand what exactly we are doing in ISKCON, or let us say in devotion. And that also I will tell you as I continue to explain. And also this verse is important to to actually differentiate between what is a sahitya or a sentimental person and what is a pure devotee. Who is a sahitya and who is a pure devotee? That distinction. This was, in other words, it's important to have a sense of discrimination. And that's why this verse is also important. So this verse is important for all these uh, so we are trying to understand this verse now. I'll explain all these points how this is important. Okay. Also, this verse is important because it is often quoted verse by many of our acharyas and many of our commentators again and again and again. So the importance of this verse cannot be undermined. That's why I chose this verse today, in spite of the fact that your whole, your sequence was from fourth canto, but I requested to speak on this verse. I thought it's very relevant and very important, and I had been meditating on this. I thought I'll share with you. Okay, so let's just go into this verse. Now, what this verse is. Tadashmasaram hirdayam batedam. Now the word used is hirdayam. Heart. Hirdayam, Prabhupada translates as heart. Or if you read the purport, Prabhupada translates heart as mind. So heart or mind, it's all the same thing. Or you can also translate heart as Prabhupada translates as the whole process of spiritual culture is aimed at changing the heart of living being. That's the second paragraph of this verse, or the purport, and the first line. The whole process of spiritual culture is aimed at changing the heart of living being. Now, that means heart can also be understood in the terms of swabhav. In the terms of swabhav means the character of the living entity. The character, or it's swabhav. Yeah, swabhav can be translated as character. Yeah. Is any word which we can use for swabhav? Let's see. Nature, the nature of that person, the personality, let's say, the nature and the character of that person. In fact, Krishna says in Bhagavatham, Swabhav Vijayam iti Shaurayam. Real heroism, real victory, real power is to have victory over your own Swabhava, your own character, your own personality, your own character is made of habits and deep-rooted desires. Real heroism is to have victory over all those things. And that's what is the point here. Hirdaya means heart means mind. Mind has desires and habits which form a character, and character forms the nature of that person or the whole personality, and that is called Swabhava. And Krishna says, real heroism is to conquer your own Swabhava, is to change your Swabhava. That's the whole point. This is in Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna says, Swabhava Vijayam Shauryam. That's 11th canto. Krishna says that, I think that's 11th canto, 24th chapter, something like that. You can see on folio. And then and also in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Swabhava Adhyatma Uchyate. That's in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, what is spirituality? Adhyatma. What is that? How do we define spirituality? Krishna says, spirituality means to change one's swabhava. That's how Krishna defines spirituality, as Krishna doesn't define spirituality as chanting or reading or maybe honoring prasad or maybe meditation. He doesn't do that. Although we know chanting and reading and prasadam and whatever it is, this is devotion. This is spirituality. But Krishna doesn't do that. Krishna defines spirituality as Swabhava Adhyatma Chita, to change one's nature, to change one's character, to change one's swabhava. That's what Krishna defines. Now why? Why is that? Even Prabhupada writes in the purport, in the second paragraph, that's what I'm quoting. Prabhupada writes, the whole process of spiritual culture, it's directly from Bhagavad Gita. Swabhava adhyatma uchyate. Srila Prabhupada is translating from that line from Bhagavad Gita in English. Swabhava adhyatma uchyate. The whole process of spiritual culture is aimed at changing the heart of living being. Heart of living being, as we've already discussed, it means swabhava or character. The heart of living being, in the matter of his relationship with Supreme Lord as subordinate servant, which is his eternal constitutional position. Now, this is very, very, very important line. I mean to say, you can put very raised to the power million times. That's all. The whole process of spiritual, Prabhupada says, the whole process of spiritual culture. Now, what is the process of spiritual culture? ISKCON or any other Vaishnava Sampradaya, Nimbark, Madhva. What is spiritual culture? Okay. What is the whole process of spiritual culture? Okay, what's that? Chanting, reading, temple, devotees, prasadam, festivals. This is the process. What we are following. Process of devotion. Prabhupada says chanting and hearing is the best process of devotion service. But what's the aim? That's the whole point there. What's the aim of doing this? The aim is changing the heart of living being. That's the whole idea. Or changing the swabhava or the character of living being, or breaking the habits of the living being, or inculcating good qualities in the living being. That's the whole aim of our spiritual process, or Prabhupada writes, or understanding, or getting this conviction that I am subordinate to the desires of Supreme Lord Krishna. That conviction, Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kaya Sudhira Nishchay, Krishna Karm Krit Kaila Sar Karm Krit Hoy. That's what Mahaprabhu defines faith as. Get the conviction I am subordinate to Supreme Lord. I am subordinate to the desires of Supreme Lord. I am not independent. I cannot do anything independent. That thing, that feeling, that conviction of losing independence, of losing that speculative independence, and gaining a mood of dependence on Supreme Lord, or gaining a mood of obedience to the desires and the orders of Supreme Lord in any condition, maybe in reverses or calamities, in fear, or when you are tempted by lust or anger. Still I must follow God, Supreme Lord. That conviction, that is what is change of heart. See the point there. Subordinate servant is eternal constitutional position. Now and that is why Krishna defines spirituality as Swabhava Adhyatma Uchyate. Krishna says spirituality or Adhyatma is change in one's Swabhava, change in one's nature. That's what Krishna defines. Krishna doesn't say spirituality means chanting and hearing. Why? Because now Krishna is focusing on the goal of chanting and hearing. That's the whole point. Krishna is defining spirituality not in the terms of process, but in the terms of goal. Now what is more important, process or goal? Well, both are important. What is more important, prayojan or abhidhay? Well, both are important. But the whole point is, if you're so picky and choosy, and if you ask, well, I want to ask you, what is more important, process or goal? Choose. So what are we going to choose? Well, we're going to choose the goal. Because if the goal is not defined, how do you choose a process? If you don't know where to go, how do you choose how to go? If you have to go from Charlotte to maybe Raleigh. Okay, then first you decide you have to go from Charlotte to Raleigh, and then you can decide, okay, now how to go. Now what are the options? Well, there's the option of train, car, flight. Not a good idea because it's such a nearby station. But if you decide to go from Charlotte to Boston, okay, now what are the options? Okay, train. No. In America, trains from Charlotte to Boston. Come on. Probably we don't even have a train from Charlotte to Boston. Car, okay, makes little sense. But the best thing is flight. So that's why goal is more important. If the goal is defined, the process automatically appears. The process comes by itself. You can choose a process, but if the goal is not defined, you can't do anything. And without defining the goal, even if you choose a process, you will not be able to follow it with full conviction. So the goal is important. That's where Krishna defines goal. So Bhavatyatma Chitte. And that's what Prabhupada says. The whole process of spiritual culture is aimed at changing the heart of living being. Changing the heart of living being. That means getting rid of bad qualities and inculcating good qualities. Getting rid of lust, anger, greed, these anarthas, and inculcating good qualities, or daivi gun, like satyam, saucham, daya, tapa, and the supremely good quality that is subordination or obedience to the Supreme Lord. Savaya pumsam parodharma. Parodharma, the supreme religious principle. So that's ordinary religious principles and the supreme religious principles. That's how it goes. So that is the whole point. The Prabhupada begins this purport by this line. The whole process of spiritual culture is aimed at changing the heart of living being. Of course, the first paragraph of this purport says that the second canto begins the gradual process of development of devotional service. So Prabhupada says, of course, Prabhupada says second canto. Prabhupada says in the first chapter, it is said the process of devotional service is described, stressed, hearing and chanting. And in the first canto, second chapter, then the meditation on gross conception, universal form of Lord is recommended for the beginners. And in the third chapter now, Vishnu worship, pure devotional service is described. The mature state of Vishnu service is suggested here in relationship to the change of heart. Goal is described. In the second canto, first chapter, process is described of devotional service. In the second canto, second chapter, those people who cannot follow the process of devotional service, chanting and hearing, for them an alternative process of meditating on universal form is described. And the third chapter of second canto, the goal of the process is described, that is the change of heart. Now, having said that, tadashmasaram hirdayam vatedam. Okay, change of heart. Okay, fine. But the whole point is tad ashmasaram. What is the state of our heart now? When we're talking about change of heart, what is the state now? That's the whole point. So Bhagavatam says tad ashmasaram. A heart is steel framed now. Steel framed. So Ashma means steel. Saram means the essence. Heart is like even more harder than the steel. If you take out the essence of steel or iron or stone, the essence of stone, iron or steel is this hardness. That's the tensile strength what it has, isn't it? That's why we use steel, iron or stone or anything, because the tensile strength, the hardness is there. So the whole point is the heart is hard now. That's the whole point there. And what has made our heart hard? What is that? Now, Prabhupada, if you read the Prabhupada says the false sense of lording over material world, sense of material enjoyment, or in other words, offenses to the Supreme Lord. Offenses to the Supreme Lord or in devotion has made our heart hard. And what is the topmost offense? And what is the root of all offenses? The root of all offenses are anarthas in our heart: lust, anger, greed. That has made, and what is the root of lust, anger, greed? That is selfishness, or the feeling to enjoy this material world for personal sense gratification, to enjoy this material, but that is a root. And what is the root of selfishness? That is I am the Lord of everything. I can take my own decisions. I don't need to consult God for taking decisions in my life, whether big or whether very ordinary day-to-day activities. That is the whole problem there. That false I, that illusory I, which we have created by our own mental speculation, which is actually not I, which is not real I. We have made a picture of ourselves, which we are not, in our own mind. And we think we are independent. Yes, this is me. Okay, who are you? This is me. I'm this and this and this. I'm independent. I can take my own decisions. I'm free. I like to do anything what I like. I like to succeed. I like to do this. That is a false picture of ourselves which we have made. Just like a madman. If you ask a madman, who are you? He will say, I am Bill Gates. Well, he's mad. Okay, who are you? I am Trump. A person, if you ask a person, who are you? I am Trump. He'll say, come on, he's crazy, mad. But the whole point is, why is thinking like that? You can say he's mad. But what's the meaning of being mad? Meaning is he has created a picture of himself in his own mind, which is not he. And that's why he's mad. So when we make a picture of ourselves in our own mind, which are not we, then Bhagavatam calls us mad. We are servants of God. Originally, we are subordinate to Him. He is our creator, and we are supposed to follow our creator and never disobey Him. But now we have made a false picture in our mind. No, I have no creator. I'm not supposed to follow anybody. This is false I. You see the point there? That false picture of I which we have made. That's the whole problem there. And because of that false I, there's selfishness. Because of selfishness, there's lust, anger, greed. Because of lust, anger, greed, there are offenses. Because of offenses, our heart has become harder than steel. Now, somebody can ask, what do you mean by heart becoming harder? What do you mean by that? I mean to say, what's the practical meaning? Like, what's the meaning of heart becoming harder? I mean to say, if you meet one of a friend who is not a devotee, and if you say, well, your heart has become hard, he'll say, come on, what do you mean by that? I love my friends, I love my girlfriend, I love my iPhone, I love my car, and I'm a very emotional person. They might say, I'm very sensitive. How can you make this comment, my heart has become hard? Well, we can prove to you your heart has become hard. How? Yad grahyamaner harinamadhe. So Bhagavatam says, well, harinamadhe. Deha means by concentration of mind. If Bhagavatam says, when you focus your mind on Supreme Lord God, on God, Harinam, especially on the names of God. Here names we name form qualities of God. If you focus your mind on God, okay, there's a test, your heart is hard. Okay, let's see. When you focus your mind on God, yad grahyamana. Grahyamana uh, means to accept. Grahya means to accept. When you accept the conception of God and start chanting His names. Okay, come to a program, start chanting names of God, and still, if ecstasy doesn't take place, tears doesn't fill the eye, hairs doesn't stand on end, that means your heart has become hard. Now, the test of heart becoming hard is in relationship to God. Now, your heart might be very sensitive and very emotional and very soft in relationship to material world, in relationship to matter. But then that is not considered a soft heart. The benchmark of soft heart is in relationship to God. That's how we define. Now, and it's very easy to understand. I mean to say, if you're a terrorist, suppose if you're a terrorist, suppose if you meet a terrorist, and the terrorist is very soft, very emotional for his own child, his own wife, his own mother, then what do you say? Is he a hard person, or is he hard-hearted, or is he soft-hearted? Now, mind you, the terrorist has killed many people, and he's the most brutal terrorist ever known. But he's very emotional, very sensitive to his own family and his own children. Is he hard-hearted or soft-hearted? Well, or you decide. Okay, then you can say he's hard-hearted in relationship to people around him. He doesn't care about them, but he's soft-hearted in relationship to his own family and children. That you can say. At least if you want to put it like that. So similarly, well, if that person is hard-hearted, soft-hearted, okay, fine. If that person is very sensitive and emotional, if a friend says, I'm very sensitive and emotional to my friends, to situations, okay, you are soft-hearted for material world. Okay, let's say like that. But as far as God and spiritual life is concerned, you are hard-hearted. And of course, Bhagavatam is concerned only with spiritual life. But then if you go one step forward, is he really soft-hearted? If a person, an emotional person, a sentimental person, who is very soft-hearted in relationship to this material world and has absolutely no feelings for the Supreme Lord, and when he meditates on Supreme Lord or chants his name, he has no change in his mind, no ecstatical symptoms, no tears, nothing. Then what do we conclude? In one sense, he's hard-hearted. Why? Because he's having emotions for people of this world, for animals of this world, for trees, for this planet, which are nice, of course. Why he has a lot of emotions for people, for dogs, for animals, for planet? Because he thinks it's a nice place to live in. But then it's getting destroyed. And that's why he has a lot of feelings for it. Or maybe, or he has a lot of feelings for people around him, because he thinks that they're very, because he thinks that they're very distressed, or they're in a problem. And that's why he has feelings for them. He's sensitive. But they're nice people. So you might ask him, why do you have a lot of sensitiveness and emotions for people? He might say, well, they're good people, but they're in problems. So yes, I feel for them. I feel for poor animals. I feel for this planet. You see the point? That's the root cause of his softness of his heart. But the whole point is, why don't you feel for God? If you think they are so good and you're feeling for them, God is supremely good. But why don't you feel for Him? He is supremely good. And He has made His creations supremely good. But then people and we by our foolishness are destroying this planet, destroying people and our culture and everything around us. I don't feel for him. He might also be feeling a lot of distress. Now that's the whole point there. That's why Bhagavatam says that heart is hard if it doesn't, if there's no tears and ecstasy doesn't take place, hair doesn't stand on end, in spite of, I mean to say, in spite of chanting the holy names, or Harinam Deha means in spite of meditating on the Supreme Lord, in spite of meditating on his absolute pure qualities, in spite of meditating on desires of Supreme Lord, in spite of meditating on the feelings of Supreme Lord, in connection with us, and your heart doesn't melt, your heart doesn't feel for him, your heart is not overjoyed by experiencing absolute goodness, absolute truth, absolute love. God has millions and millions of times more love than your girlfriends or father and mother, but your heart doesn't feel that. And if you cannot feel the distress of the Supreme Personality of God, the distress that we are rotting around in this material world, He wants us to come back. And if you can't feel all this fine sentiments of the absolute truth, then your heart is hard. Oh, Hare Krishna, actually somebody is not muted, so I'm getting disturbed. Somebody has to mute the phone. Please check it. It's not muted. Okay, so that's the whole point. So that is why the test of hardness of heart, the test of hardness of heart is actually chanting the holy names of Lord, meditating on Supreme Lord. So he says, well, your heart is hard. Now the whole question is, Hare Krishna, somebody's phone is not muted. Can you please check? All of you? It's disturbing. Yeah, no, it's okay. So that's the whole point there. Now who's now what about us? All of us. Our heart is hard or soft? Well, the verse says it does not change when ecstasy takes place. Tears fill the eyes and hair stand on end. Prabhupada says in the purport, well, when we chant, we don't get tears, or our hairs don't stand on end. At least not always. Sometimes. And ecstasy doesn't take place. So then what's happening? So our heart is hard or soft. Our character is hard like stone. Our character is full of lust, anger, greed, selfishness, false I, which is making it hard, or it's soft. What's happening? Sometimes we feel ecstasy, sometimes we don't feel ecstasy. So now what to do? When we feel ecstasy, then you can say, when you feel ecstasy, it becomes soft. When you don't feel ecstasy, it's hard. Okay, that might be the case. That can be. But the whole point in this verse, now this verse is very important. Now you have to hear very, very carefully, because now there's a twist in this whole verse. There's a big twist, and that's what this verse is all about, by the way. This verse is not all about what I have been saying for last half an hour. For last half an hour, whatever I'm saying, that's not the real message. Now the real message comes, which you might not have thought, by the way, which might be shock for all of you. But that's Bhagavatam all about. Bhagavatam gives you shocks because it's for Paramahamsas, and we are absolute neophytes, and we are trying to read Paramahamsa scripture. And if you don't get shocks, that means you're not reading Bhagavatam. So, okay, our hearts are soft or hard. Or when ecstasy takes place, it's soft. When ecstasy doesn't take place, then it's hard. Okay, let's say like this. But the whole point is, you know what? Or some portion has become soft, and most of the portion is hard. Let's say like that. whole point is in the third line. Na vikriyet atha yada vikaro. Now you see the translation. Now you see the Sanskrit. Na vikriyet atha yada vikaro. Now this verse says, if heart doesn't change, yada vikaro, when there are tears in the eyes, and when the hairs stand on it. Prabhupada, if you see the translation puts it right. Certainly heart is steel framed, which in spite of chanting the holy names of Lord with concentration, does not change. In spite of chanting holy names of Lord with concentration, does not change. Now here it stops. And then it says, when ecstasy takes place, tears fill the eyes and hairs stand on end. That means ecstasy and change of heart are two different things. They're very two different things. Now you might be thinking change of heart means ecstasy. Generally devotees think my heart is changing because I'm feeling ecstasy. Oh yeah, I'm feeling ecstasy. My tears are coming in my eyes. My heart is changing. My heart is becoming soft. No, my dear brother and sister, you're wrong. You're wrong, absolutely wrong. It might not. It might and might not. You don't know. That's why it says it does not change when ecstasy takes place. So that means even if ecstasy takes place, your heart might not change. You might be full of ecstasy. You might have tears in your eyes. Your hairs might stand on end. But your heart might remain the same as it is. So this means change of heart is not feeling ecstasy. First thing is that. We should not get confused that we are feeling ecstasy. That means our heart is changing. It might be changing. It might not be changing. Or in other words, ecstasy or tears in our eyes or feeling bliss in kirtans, but that is not the standard to judge whether your heart is changing or not. By that you can never know. And Srila Prabhupada quotes in the purport, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Srila Prabhupada specifically quotes Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And he says, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, there are many imitators who can have tears in your eyes, who have hairs standing on end, or not even imitators, even new devotees, even neophytes, who can experience a shadow of ecstasy, who can experience ecstasy. Like all of us. Sometimes we feel very nice, we feel very happy, and we feel sometimes tears comes in our eyes, or we have hair standing on end when we go and see deities in Vrindavan. That's all very nice, but the whole point is, by that you cannot say whether your heart is changing or not. You cannot say, because that might, that's ecstasy. You're feeling ecstasy, but then whether your heart is changing or not, that you can't say. Now you might question here, well, if your heart doesn't change, how do you feel ecstasy? That's the whole point. If your heart doesn't change, how do you feel ecstasy? Well, there are two ways for that. Prabhupada writes in the purport. One way is imitation. You can imitate, you can practice. In Bengal, if you go, people have practiced. Or second way is shadow of ecstasy. Or second way is Krishna gives ecstasy to you as a sample. He's giving from his own accord. You are not earning that ecstasy. He is giving from his own accord. Or maybe, what do we say in exam? Bonus marks, or what do we say? When a child fails, grace marks. It is grace. It's a grace marks he's giving. Our sadhana is not up to the point that we can feel ecstasy, because that we can feel true ecstasy, which is born. That this word is important. Born. Now in Sanskrit it's called Jat Bhav. Ajat bhav. That is why there are two types of bhav. Jat bhav, ajat bhav. Right? If you go in the Sanskrit of this verse, if you go into Sanskrit, the commentary of this verse, there's jat bhav, ajat bhav. That's the whole point there. So jat bhav means the ecstasy which is born of a pure heart. That is ecstasy, born of a pure heart. Your heart has become pure, your heart has become soft, and then ecstasy is born of that. But then there is another ecstasy, ajat bhav. Jat means born, ajat means not born. Ecstasy, which is actually not born from pure heart. Because the heart is like steel frame. It is not born from a pure heart. Then from where it is born? That ecstasy. That ecstasy is born from the association of devotees who have pure heart. Or it is born from the grace of the Supreme Lord and not your pure heart. Krishna gives. Krishna is very merciful. He's well anyway. He's serving me. He's trying. His heart might not be pure, but his efforts are sincere. The sincerity of purpose is there, and the goal is fixed. Okay, let me give him ecstasy. Now, why is giving this grace marks? That's another question. I'll come to that point. But the whole point is, okay, let me give. So that's the whole point. So in spite of having steel framed heart, you can experience ecstasy. And that's what this verse is. The heart is steel framed in spite of chanting the holy names of Lord with concentration that we are doing. In spite of one chanting holy names of Lord with concentration, you can chant holy names with concentration, with full concentration. Hari Namade. So it does not change when ecstasy takes place. So you can chant with full concentration, and you can also experience tears and bliss in chanting, and you can say, my chanting was so nice today, I had tears. But then the whole point is your heart has not changed after that whole experience of kirtan, after that nice chanting, after that everything nice. Still, after some time, you get thoughts of lust, anger, envy, greed, offensive thoughts against Supreme Lord and Vaishnavas. Absolutely, you become absolutely crazy. What happened? Come on, what happened in 10 minutes? What happened in 15 minutes? What about that ecstasy? So that's the whole point. So the aim is not to chant with concentration. You see the point? That's not the aim there. Now, that's the whole point I'm trying to bring. Generally, we confuse a process with a goal, and that's why we are not advancing. Because actually 2 days back, one devotee asked me, Prabhuji, we don't feel we are advancing. What's happening? We're doing everything. We're chanting with concentration. We're coming to Mangalarti. We feel nice in kirtans. We feel nice in lectures, but we are not advancing. What's happening? I told him, well, the problem is you don't know what's the goal. You don't know what's the goal. Now he said, well, the goal is love of God. But the whole point is, that's not the immediate goal. That's the final ultimate goal. But what's the immediate goal? And, the immediate goal is change of heart. Or in other words, the immediate goal is change of a nature, of character. Or in other words, getting rid of asuri gun, bad qualities, and inculcating daivi gun, good qualities, and the supremely good quality of obedience to Supreme Lord. That should happen. So we should not judge our advancement by concentration on holy names. That's not the point. But of course, we should chant with concentration. And we should not judge our advancement in devotion by ecstasy or tears in our eyes. No, that's not the point. And Prabhupada says in this purport, both Vishwachakra Thakur and Rupa Goswami, they have actually delineated the symptoms of real advancement, the symptoms of change of heart. So how do we know whether our heart is changing or not? Not by ecstasy. Even if you experience ecstasy, you don't know what's happening. And that might be illusion also. You might fall in it. That actually, ecstasy in devotional service, that might be a trap of Maya also. Now, Krishna gives from his grace ecstasy, but then Maya uses that grace to delude you. Maya is tricky. He can use things given by God to delude you. This material world is made by Krishna to help us get liberated. But Maya is using the same material word, which is actually a grace of God to us to help us get liberated. Maya is using the same material word to actually delude us, to put us into illusion. So Krishna, by his grace, just as Krishna by his grace gives us this material world to serve him and help us to make pure and liberated. Similarly, by the same time, Maya uses the same material word to delude us. Similarly, Krishna, by his grace, gives us ecstasy, but then Maya uses the same ecstasy to delude us. How? Because when we get ecstasy, when we get tears in our eyes, we think, oh, we are advancing. My heart is changing. But no, my dear, it's not changing. You don't know what's happening. Well, by the way, why does Krishna give ecstasy? Why did Krishna create this material world out of his grace? So that we can use this material world to actually serve him and learn what is service and what do you mean by being servant of Krishna, and then develop love of God. So what do you mean? So similarly, why does Krishna give ecstasy? So that we can use this ecstasy. Now here's the whole point. Keep it in mind. Krishna gives us ecstasy out of his grace. He doesn't do anything randomly. He gives us this ecstasy even though we are not qualified for that. Even though heart is not pure, it's steel framed, still he gives as a sample, as advertisement, as a grace. Why? So that we can use this ecstasy, just as we use this material world to serve him. We can use this ecstasy to serve him. That's the whole idea there. We can use the ecstasy to actually, so when we feel ecstasy, while chanting, we feel bliss in kirtans, we have tears. Sometimes when we chant, when we see deities, we have hair standing on end. What should we do? We should not think our heart is becoming pure. No. We should think at that time that we have to make our heart pure. Krishna is giving us. Krishna is so nice that we should think. Krishna is so nice that he's giving tears in my eyes. These are not my tears. He's giving me bliss. This is not my bliss. He's giving me ecstasy and happiness. My hairs are standing on end. But this is not my qualification. This is not me. This is not the strength of my chanting and hearing. This is Krishna giving me. Krishna is so nice. And now he's so nice and he's my Lord and he's my master. We should use his ecstasy to become attached to him. He's my Lord, he's my master. I have to now serve him. I will follow whatever he says. Even if I'm tempted, even if I'm obsessed, I will leave all my temptations. I will resist it for my dear Lord Krishna, because he's my master. That feeling should come. The feeling should not be when you feel ecstasy and bliss. Oh yes, I have done. I'm becoming pure. No, my dear, you're wrong. You have to become pure when you're feeling ecstasy. That's the whole point. You have not earned that ecstasy by your purity. Your heart is still steel framed. And the proof is that after some time you become the same. Same thoughts, same desires, same lust. There is something wrong in our understanding. That's this whole verse all about. And then And then this verse says here, so that the whole point is we have to work on ourselves. Krishna will help us. Krishna, the ecstasy which Krishna gives, it's an inspiration that we can work, that we should work on ourselves. Krishna is with us. That's what he is telling by giving us ecstasy. I'm with you. Come on, get up, fight, work, make your heart pure, serve me, leave all the attachments. And in fact, Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport. How do we know that a heart is becoming pure? Not by ecstasy, not by concentration of holy name, by 9 symptoms. Prabhupada says in the purport, and 9 symptoms you can know whether your heart is becoming pure or not. And that is Shanti. Shanti means the first is cessation of material desires. That we have to work on. Okay, now we have to work to get free of material desires. Shanti revartha kalatvam, will not waste even a single second. Krishna is so nice, he's giving ecstasy. Even if we don't deserve, I will serve him every second. I will not waste even a single second. That's avartha kalatvam. By this symptom, we'll know my heart is becoming pure. Shanti revartha kalatvam, virakti navana shunyata, asha banta samutkantha, naam gane sada ruchi, Krishna guna khyane priti dadvasati sthale. You can go and see Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prabhupada quotes in the purport. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, 23 chapter, 18-19 verse. In the purport, Prabhupada is mentioning the reference. You can go and have a look. 9 symptoms for advancement in devotional service. Only by those 9 symptoms we can understand whether our heart is changing or not. Not by mere concentration. Don't be fooled by that. That today I have fully concentrated on chanting, so I'm advancing. No, my dear, might not be. Or today I felt so much ecstasy, so I'm advancing. No, my dear, not. Your heart can still be steel framed as before. How do you know whether heart is becoming pure? Okay, by this 9 symptoms. Okay, yeah, chanting with concentration is necessary. That's a process. If you feel ecstasy, that's very nice because that's the grace of God on you. But then you have to be focused on the goal. The change of heart, that actually purifying your heart. And for that you have to work. For that you have to work. And for that you have to have right perception and knowledge. That you have to serve Lord. You have to serve Him in spite of all reverses, in spite of all calamities, in spite of all your fears, in spite of all your hangings and temptations. You have to keep on going. That's what you have to do. You have to work on yourself. You have to fight with Maya. There's a war going on. You have to understand the weakness of the enemy of Maya. A true fighter understands the weakness of enemy. Otherwise, he'll never going to win the war. So all those things we have to do, and then we have to make our heart, we have to change our heart. And the symptoms of change of heart are 9 symptoms. And the first symptom is Shanti. That is detachment and absence of material desires. That's the point there. Our material desires should reduce. That should go on. Even after that's the first thing. Prabhupada says the test of spiritual advancement is that he will not get disturbed. A devotee will never get disturbed. If you're getting disturbed, people get disturbed in small things. There's a fight between devotees. There's something going on within devotees, and they get disturbed. This is the whole point there. So then what's the advancement there? Then how can you say you're getting advanced? Come on. Then don't fall into illusion. You can say I'm getting advanced because I'm getting bliss. Come on, my dear Lord, my dear brothers and sisters, whatever it is, my dear devotees, it's not like that the case. Prabhupada says you should not be disturbed in the greatest of problems. Whatever getting disturbed in even small problems. Somebody devotee says you something and you get disturbed. Come on, what's that spiritual elevation? That's not spiritual platform. That's not Bhagavatam. Something else is going on. Your heart is still steel framed. It doesn't bend. When a wind comes, soft plants, they bend and flow with the wind. But the plants with the trees which are strong and stout, they get broken and disturbed and tattered. So steel framed heart, when even small disturbance comes, it gets broken. It gets tattered. But a soft heart, a pure, sublime, soft heart, free of lust, anger, greed, envy, all foolish, selfish desires, soft due to pure attachment to the service of Lord. That kind of heart, when disturbance comes, when the wind of disturbance comes, it just bends and flows with the circumstances, and doesn't get cracked, doesn't get disturbed, and the wind of disturbance, it just passes by, and the devotee is undisturbed. That is called Shanti. That by that we can understand our heart is changing. So yeah, please go and read this verse. It's a beautiful verse. It's a very revolutionary verse. And right there in the translation, you can, if you read prayerfully, you can understand. Certainly that heart is steel framed, which in spite of one's chanting the holy names of Lord with concentration, which we are doing, which we are trying to do, does not change, which is not happening in us, which our heart is not changing. When ecstasy takes place, tears fills the eyes, hair stand on end. Yes, ecstasy is taking place, at least some sample of ecstasy, some shadow of ecstasy. Tears sometimes comes, hair standing. The heart is not changing. So what to do? I have told you. How to change the heart. Okay, first know what you have to do. That's the first step. To do something, first you have to know what you have to do. That's the first step. To achieve something, first you have to know what you have to achieve. That's the first step. So that's the first step. What we are doing by this process of chanting and hearing and ecstasy and whatever it is, what we are doing, we have to change our heart. Our swabhava must become daivi, divine, and not demoniac and asuri. That has to change. Our habits must change. Our whole temperament must change. Our nature must change. That's what should be happening. We should not be disturbed in any condition. That's what that should change. And how to that's the first step. You should know that's what we are doing. You have to change it. Completing rounds, hearing, feeling ecstasy, kirtans, bliss. That's a part of the game. That's not the goal. That's not we are coming here to do. That's a process. But the goal is that. Why we are doing that? That first thing you have to understand that. And then how to do it. How to do it? Yes, then how to do it? Okay, fine. Then you focus on service of Supreme Lord. All this is to help us serve Him. Hare Krishna, Krishna, please engage me in your service, isn't it? Ecstasy, bliss, Krishna is so nice. Now I will serve Him more. You see the point? That whole, we have to serve Him and nourish and complement and supplement our sentiments of service to Him. That's what we have to do. That's how heart will become pure. And understand the weakness of your enemy, Maya, or the strength of your enemy. And the strength of the enemy lies in lust, anger, greed, and selfishness. Your own selfishness is the strength of Maya. That is her strength, which is in you, which is not with her. And if you understand her strength and the weakness, and then you have to not give in to your own selfishness. That's the whole point. Not give in to your own temptations. You have to resist. If you want to change your heart, resist. And then serve. That's the whole point. And how do you know your heart is changing? Okay, there are 9 symptoms. Shanti Ravarthakalatvam Virakti Mana Shunata. The most important symptom are 2 symptoms. How do you know heart is changing? You will get detachment from this material world. And Avarthakalatvam, you will not waste even a single second except serving the Supreme Lord. That's what should be happening. You will get that fire to serve Him. And and other symptoms you can read there. So that's what this whole verse is all about. I want to discuss this. Okay, thank you very much. I'm done. Time is up. And if there is any question, you can ask me. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Prabhuji, I have one question. Do you have a minute?
Yeah. Yes.
So in Bhagavad Gita, we talk about giving the fruits to Krishna, and when we are full-time working, we earn that money, and we do use that for the service of Krishna, but not all the money is utilized. And we raise our children, so we say we bring up Krishna conscious children, so we use a part of the money there. But in terms of procuring the house, we use it for the service of Krishna also, by bringing devotees in the house and all that. But how do we justify, Prabhuji? Like, the fruits are given to Krishna in that case. Like, we still use that.
I can understand your point. I mean to say, as a congregation, as a householder, you have to use money for a house, for a car, and for yourself. So how do you justify that? Well, the whole idea is follow scriptures. Scripture says 50% use for yourself, 50% give it to Krishna. Then it is justified. Justification doesn't come by feeling. Justification comes with following the norms which are made, isn't it? So suppose if you go to a company and company says, okay, 25% you can keep for yourself, but 25% you have to give us, and we will put in your LIC policy or what, and 25% tax. That's a norm. If you follow the norm, you're justified. If you don't follow the norm and you do by your own feelings, you're not justified. So otherwise you'll always be in doubt. So scripture says 50% you should put in service of God, 50% for yourself. Well, 50% is too much. That's the whole point. Okay, scripture says, okay, if you cannot do that, 40, okay, not 30, okay, not 20, okay, not minimum 10%. Manu Samhita says minimum 10% should go in the service of. So if you can do that, minimum 10%, then you're justified. That's all. Rest you can use for yourself. But that's minimum, I mean to say. Then you can maybe increase maybe 15, 20, whatever. But whenever you 10% you're doing, then you're justified. Then you don't have to be confused. Just keep on doing. That's all. But the whole point is, we should try to increase that. I mean to say 10%, and then try to increase. That is, then you're justified, because Shastra says minimum. So for example, like Prabhupada says, minimum 16 rounds. Okay. So if you simply chant 16 rounds, keep on chanting, then so in spite of having time with you, leaving services, then doesn't make sense. Then we're not justified. But if we have services and we don't have time, we chant 16 rounds, okay, fine. But if we have time and we can do more and we're not chanting, then we're not justified. So that's the whole point, minimum 10%. That's what it is.
Yes, Prabhuji. Another question I have is with regards to the surrender, the word surrender. When you say I surrender on to me, does it mean? I mean, I know we there is the definition that talks about do things that are pleasing to Krishna, don't do things that are non-pleasing. Is that the verse that I need to follow for the surrender to understand what surrender means?
What's that question? I can't understand. What's that?
What does it mean? What does it mean to surrender? What do you do to say that you surrendered?
Well, Prabhupada says there are 6 symptoms of surrender: anukulasya sankalpa, pratikulasya varjanam, lakshyati vishvaso, vapranam tatha adnikshay prakarpanne iti shanvidha sharanagati. Now you can read that in folio, but the whole point is, the 2 main points in surrender is accepting what is favorable and rejecting what is not favorable to advancement in devotional service. But the whole trick here is accepting what is favorable without hesitation. Isn't it? Sometimes we accept but with hesitation. So that's not real surrender. And rejecting what is favorable to devotion. So rejecting what is not favorable to devotional service, that too without hesitation, because sometimes we don't want to reject, but because Guru has said so, I have to reject, or maybe because it's offensive, so I have to leave. So okay, that is surrender, or that is some resemblance of surrender, or that is a beginning of surrender. But if you really talk about surrender, then accept what is favorable to devotional service without hesitation immediately, and reject what is not favorable to devotional service immediately without hesitation. Without hesitation, that's a knack there. And that will define the degree of surrender. That will define the degree of surrender. Person who is having the lesser the hesitation to accept and reject, the more the surrender. That's how surrender.
Got it. And then last question, Prabhuji. Hope it's okay. I just need to know your, where your lecture is on the Hare Krishna, the series. Like, how do you, you said that Jiva Goswami talks about that, and I just want to know how that sequence of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
I don't know how to tell you, but the whole point is, okay, so probably you can read the book by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhajan Rahasya. In that you will find exactly, I have forgotten where it is, but Jiva Goswami has also written a commentary on holy names, but that's in Sanskrit. I don't know where this is translated in English. But
okay, you don't have a recording, Prabhuji? I was just thinking maybe if you have a recording, I'll go there.
Recording of what's the sequence of Hare Krishna, I don't think I have not done. I have not done.
Okay.
Probably I'll record and put it. So actually, you know what you can do. So I don't know devotees who are listening on the call, but you can go on my website puredevotionalservice.com or my YouTube channel Keshav Anand, and probably you can so you can type holy name there, and I think there should be a lecture, probably very old lecture. I have spoken, but I don't know in which lecture. But if you type holy name in my YouTube channel, then probably might get it.
Okay.
Might get.
Okay. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavad pranams. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Wonderful class. So the question is from Bhagavad Gita. We have a verse where Krishna says that what does repression accomplish? Swabhavastu pravartate. Everyone is going to act according to the nature, acquired nature. So, so I was under the impression that the swabhava of a person, Krishna is telling that cannot be changed.
No. Krishna is there telling what does repression accomplish. Repression is by artificial means. That's what Krishna is mentioning. Repression by yoga, by meditation, by psychological counseling, or by motivational gurus, isn't it? That's also repression in one sense. Okay, you can do it, you can do that, you're not this. And you're repressing your whole identity. Oh, no, I am strong, I'm not weak. But actually you're weak. So that's also repression, isn't it? So there are two types of repression. One is positive repression, one is negative repression. So negative repression is in yoga and meditation, where you're really repressing. And positive repression is all these motivational gurus who are actually repressing your whole identity by actually boosting you up and making you a superhero in your own eyes and actually fooling yourself. So that's repression. That kind of repression is talking. Because otherwise, Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita so many times, control your senses. Now what about that? So Krishna says, Indriya Nigraha. That so many times Krishna says, control your senses. And Bhagavata begins, Kamesha, Krodesha, Rajoguna, Samubhava. Krishna first tried to subdue lust. What about that? Then there's a contradiction. Why Krishna is saying subdue lust? So the whole point is we have to repress, but but not by artificial means. We have to actually be alert and repress whatever by taking help of devotional service, which is a real process. So by devotional service, we'll get the power to conquer lust and whatever our habits, and or maybe just like you see the point, 16 rounds and 4 eggs. What about that? So if repression doesn't accomplish anything, then why 4 eggs? Then why no illicit sex, no intoxication? Then you might say, come on, this is a big repression, isn't it? No illicit sex. What do you do about that? What do you do about that? That is clear suppression. So what's happening? Krishna says there. So then we have to solve. Then we must harmonize. So the whole point is, okay, by the help of devotional service, you can overcome these forces and your habits. That's not repression, by the way. Then in that case, we'll not call it repression. If you're so we are really picky about this word repression. And if Krishna says, what can repression accomplish? Okay, fine. Repression doesn't accomplish anything. We are not repressing there. By the help of devotional service, we are actually trying. Devotional services is trying to help us purify those desires. That's not repression. If somebody is really skeptic about the word repression, or maybe sublimating the desires in the Supreme Lord, and that's how things change. But at the same time, initially you have to suppress, isn't it? I mean to say, otherwise there's no point of 4 drugs. Nobody's devotional service is so strong that. So initially you have to suppress, but then we have the help of devotional service, which will then slowly sublimate our desires in the Supreme Lord. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, so what's that? Verse 8, chapter 2nd last verse. What's that verse? I forgot. Second last, or 7 chapter, second last, something like that. I'm just forgetting that verse. Anyway, whatever it is. So, so you know that verse, Brahma Karma Swabhavajam. What's that verse?
Yeah.
How that begins? Janma. Okay. Janma. No. I was just getting lost in that verse. Anyway, whatever it is. So
Samodamas tapat saucham shantir arjavam evacha.
Okay. Oh, that one you're telling. Oh, that qualities of Brahmanaya. Yeah. So Brahma Karma Sabhavajam. So that word Subhav comes there, and now the whole point is that is Brahmanical qualification. Shamo Damo Tapa Saucham. See there, Shamo. Shamo means, well, making your mind peaceful, not giving into temptations. Dama means what? Controlling senses. And then Brahma Karma Swabhavajam. Then you will be able to actually engage yourself in Supreme Lord. And so actually your question is dealt by Rupa Goswami also in Nectar of Devotion. Prabhupada says initially repression and suppression is required to actually follow the process. Otherwise we'll not be able to follow the process. If there are no 4 regulated principles, if suppose Prabhupada would have said, okay, what repression can accomplish? Okay, chant Hare Krishna, become like Osho Rajneesh, isn't it that there's a whole process? Meditate, but then sex is allowed, wine is allowed, everything. He said like that. So Prabhupada would have said, okay, what kind of repression? But then there's a whole contradiction. So Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami says, initially suppression is required, at least to follow the process. Otherwise, you'll not be able to even follow the process. These forces are so strong. But the whole point is, Krishna is saying only repression will not accomplish anything. That's the whole point there. Only suppression. Initially, you follow you do some suppression, and you be careful to actually remain away from all these nonsense things, and then follow the process, and then the process will take over slowly, and then you don't need to repress. So until the process doesn't take over, and so and you don't flow with the process, you have to suppress, and that is the whole difference between Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. In Raganuga Bhakti, the process takes over. In Vaidhi Bhakti, you are following the process. But in Raganuga Bhakti, the process is following you. There's a difference. You are flowing with the process. So you don't need to repress. The process will do everything. But in Vaidhi Bhakti, you are following the process. But to follow the process, you have to remain away from complete nonsense things, and you have to really suppress your temptations. You have to do that. And that's practical. We see that. Otherwise, the process is lost. And that's when Vaidhi Bhakti, there is little fight. There's a fight in the mind. But at the same time, the process of devotional service, because there's help from Supreme Lord, it is not just repression. We'll be able to do it. So that's what Krishna says. Only suppression will not accomplish anything. You have to have a process which can help you actually in suppressing, and at the same time which can actually take over your soul, your mind, and then you don't need to suppress, which will carry you now. Rather than you carrying the process, now process carries you. That's the difference between Vaidhi Raganuga. So, and that's why scripture says you have to enter Raganuga Bhakti. Otherwise, you can't achieve Lord. But at the same time, nobody understands the meaning of Raganuga Bhakti. The whole meaning of Raganuga Bhakti is you have to let the process take over you. In other words, you have to have abhinivesh for the process. That's the whole point. Now we have Dvitiya abhinivesh. Now our abhinivesh. So what do we say? Obsession. Now we have obsession for this material world, but when you have obsession for the process will be obsessed about you. That's the whole there. The difference, and that's the question. That's what Krishna is talking here about. Krishna is talking mere repression will not help. Only repression will not help. You have to have a process. So the whole point is Krishna is saying here the goal is not repression. Krishna is saying repression will not help. The whole means is for people, for yogis and for those people, for them, repression is their aim, isn't it? For yogis and jnanis, okay. Control your senses, that's saying, no, that will not happen. Our thing is not that. We are not repressing, our aim is not repression. We are trying to repress to actually do something else. We are repressing as a favorable activity to follow the process. That's not the process. Krishna is talking in terms of process here. If your process is repression, that's not going to work. Our process is not repression, our process is devotion. We are using suppression and repression as favorable to following the process. Then Krishna says, okay, that's fine. And that Krishna says, Kamesha, Krodesha, and 4 eggs and all, everything. Then it harmonizes. Is it clear?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Prabhuji, I have a question. So here in the purport, Sri Prabhupada, he writes out of one of the 9 qualities, he states attraction for living in the land of the Lord. So what is it exactly? Attraction for living in the land of the Lord.
Yeah. So that is one of the 9 symptoms of change of heart. That is Priti Tad Vasati Sthale, isn't it? That's what Prabhupada is talking.
Yes, Prabhuji. So what does that exactly mean?
Yeah, so that means that actually Nectar of Devotion explains Priti Tad Vasati Sthale. That Prabhupada explains that means attraction. Of course, the literal meaning is attraction to Vrindavan. We should be attracted to actually stay in Vrindavan. We should be attracted to Vrindavan, the land of Vrindavan, Govardhan, Mansi Ganga, Yamuna. We should feel, as Prabhupada says, Vrindavan is my home. That's one meaning. That feeling should be there. In this place, my home is not my home. Vrindavan is my home. We should feel our home is a foreign land. First, that feeling should be there. Second thing is, but that explanation is at the level of feeling. But at the level of activity, action, the understanding of this line is that we should actually make Vrindavan famous all around the world. Just like Prabhupada says. Prabhupada says, for me to live in Vrindavan is Maya. Prabhupada said, the real attraction to Vrindavan can be shown when you don't live in Vrindavan, but when you distribute Vrindavan. Now what about that? Because whatever you like, you try to distribute it, isn't it? So if you like something, then you go to your friends, oh my God, this is like this, that like this, I like that. Oh, come on, this movie is so nice, you should also see. So that's the whole point there. So at the level of actions, this line means attraction for Supreme Lord means to distribute Vrindavan and not to stay actually. Distribute it. Give Vrindavan to others. Inform others about Vrindavan. Inform others about the land of God, which is pure and sublime, which is our home, which is home for everybody. That's at the level of actions. And then the meaning at the level of thoughts, thinking. That means at the level of thoughts, this line means having attraction for the land of Supreme Lord. This means having attraction to serve Supreme Lord, because Vrindavan is all about service. Vrindavan is actually all about service, nothing else. So at the level of thought, if we are always trying to serve Supreme Lord, or we have see the whole point is Vrindavan is always glorified because footprints of Krishna are there. That's why Vrindavan has become blessed. And that's the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, where it says Krishna incarnated in Vrindavan, and his footprints, his lotus feet blessed the land of Vrindavan. Gopis also say like that. So Vrindavan is Vrindavan because of lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Imprints are there. So the whole point is attraction to Vrindavan is attraction to the footprints of Supreme Lord. And attraction to the footprints of Supreme Lord, or lotus feet of Supreme Lord, is attraction to his service. So just as every particle of Vrindavan is serving Supreme Lord, at the level of thoughts, this line means, I should also become a particle at his lotus feet. What's that? Ainanda tanuja kinkaram patatam visham vadavu kripyatava pada pankaja sita dhuli, there, sita dhuli. So the dust of Vrindavan is at lotus feet. I also want to become dust for lotus feet. That means I want to serve you perpetually, birth after birth. So that these are three meanings of this line at the level of feelings, thoughts, and actions. That's what it means.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, so somebody.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for your wonderful class. If there are any questions or comments from Prabhuji?
Yes. Well, one comment is this was such an incredibly amazing class. I mean, I always love your classes, but this was exceptionally amazing. Just to revisit one part of your question, one part of your answer about repression. When you were talking about the artificial ways of repressing, you were saying that there was negative ways in which to do it and positive ways in which to do it.
Yeah.
And so that's where I need to get a little bit of clarification. Let's say motivational speakers and so on, right? We call them positively artificial, right? Because anyway, can you just explain again what the difference is?
Actually, you see the point is so one way is negatively repressing. That means you close your eyes like yogis, and then you start suppressing your desires, and that's your goal. That's all. That is negative way of repression. Or maybe you go to but the positive way of repressing, I can think of two examples. For example, psychological counseling. So you're depressed, and then you go to psychologist, and then by artificial techniques, he's trying to tell you don't get depressed and this and that. But that's an artificial way of repressing. But that's a positive way because it feels it is positive. I mean to say, you feel, say psychologist will say, yeah, you're nice and this, but then you have to overcome this, and then that will be good. Then anyway, you're repressing. So that is a positive way of repression. And another better example than that, which is more relevant, which is actually difficult to understand, is motivational gurus. Motivational gurus, what they're doing is they are trying to tell you, see, you are a superhero and you can do anything. You are an Uberman and nobody can stop you. Don't listen to anybody. Don't listen to any advice. Now, the whole problem with this is this kind of advice is actually suppressing his own nature and his own weaknesses. You see the point? He is not accepting that he's weak in something. Rather than accepting that, well, okay, I can't do this. That's all, finished. My Swabhava is not like that. That's all. It's clear. But then you come and then you say, no. You have to suppress that thing in yourself, and you can do anything. So that feels positive. That feels positive, isn't it?
Yeah.
But actually that's repression because Krishna says that the best thing is to accept what you are, not try to do what others are doing, but then you will get frustrated. So in the end, people keep on thinking like that, and they get frustrated because they cannot do because they don't have the ability to do that. And rather than accepting, I don't have the ability. Come on, I can do this. Come on, that's nonsense. Krishna says people are made. People carry impressions. People have their own abilities. Better to accept and better do whatever minimal you can do, and better be satisfied, isn't it? Better be satisfied with what you can do and be happy. So that is something positive repression.
Yeah. So whether we're talking about negative or positive repression, both involve like kind of denying our true nature,
Right.
Yeah,
absolutely. That's what is happening. We are denying our nature.
Because there's negative repression, you're suppressing desires, but it's the nature of the soul to have desires. So that's artificial. And then with positive repression, you're denying, your actual qualities, and trying to pretend that you have qualities that you don't. So that's the
right. Yeah, right. Like that.
Okay, and then also just one last thing is when you're talking about, when the heart changes, and rather than you carrying the process carries you. The difference between the two, it seems to be like a person's level of taste for devotional service. So when we don't have taste, that's when we are the one carrying the process. Like we're fighting our lack of taste in order to do devotional service.
Absolutely.
So that's correct understanding? That's correct understanding?
Yeah. Perfect. I mean to say it's a matter of taste or ruchi. If you don't have taste, then probably you are carrying the process. But when you have a taste in the process, you. Yeah, of course. That's to the point. That's one of the way we can know whether we are carrying the process or process is carrying us. That's one of the way, important way.
So is there other ways to know?
Yeah, there are other ways. I think I can devote a lecture on that one. What are the ways whether you know how to do that? Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very, very much, Prabhu. Like I said, it's unbelievable. You're always unbelievable to me, but today was really one of the top. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so I think we can end here, Mataji, or who is there?
Yeah. Hare Krishna, is there anyone have any questions or comments? Hare Krishna, in the last time. Okay. I think we can end the call here. Let's pay our obeisances to Prabhuji and all the Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpa tarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyo patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Anand Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Anand Prabhuji ki jai.